A genre defined by the titular rogue back in 1980, roguelite games present a unique challenge to the player. Death is an expected part of the experience. A roguelite game will see the hero tackle an increasingly difficult challenge, often set in a randomly generated environment or scenario, only to fall and return to start. While death in video games isn't new, roguelites often strip players of all non-essential gear, forcing them to start fresh with entirely random pickups on the next run. These games tend to have a shorter, overarching narrative as a whole, but present a unique challenge that encourages the growth of skill, learned patience, and quick studying to survive. This year saw an unprecedented number of roguelites launch, each one offering something unique from each other, whether it be a new narrative twist or a curious mechanical combination. Here are the top 10 nominations for COGconnected's Best Roguelite of 2021. Number 10. Unsighted. Unsighted is an apocalyptic roguelite that offers a slew of familiar gaming pieces rolled into a single adventure. The hero, Alma, is an android brought to life to fight in the war of Arcadia City between humans and robots. To remain sentient, the machines must collect anima from a fallen meteor or be doomed to become unsighted. Given 579 hours to take control of the anima and save the people, what seems like a long time for the player is quickly dwindling for others. This game features items and puzzles reminiscent of The Legend of Zelda, combat mechanics of skill-based adventure games in balancing stamina and HP levels, and crafting not unlike that found in Minecraft. NPCs have their own clocks which are ticking away, and there are measures to extend their lifespan, but it quickly boils down to which characters the player finds necessary and which can be sacrificed. Unsighted covers a lot of familiar gaming territory, but each piece captures a key essence of gaming parts to make a challenging and satisfying whole. Number 9. Griftlands. A curious blend of roguelite and deck-building mechanics, Griftlands is set in a grim sci-fi future of bartering and battle around every corner. The cards in your custom deck not only control specific combat techniques to use in battle, but they also offer a host of features that don't require a pistol in hand. Persuading a bartender to offer information, interrogating a criminal to hand over something you need, or casually talking your way out of a gunfight are all viable solutions to any situation in Griftlands if you found the card to do it. Should you find out the hard way that intimidating a mob boss was a bad idea, you'll come back with the opportunity to adjust your deck and try something new. There are plenty of ways to play out every situation, and using the deck building feature to adjust your playstyle makes for a far more flexible and customized experience each time you play and inevitably fall. Number 8. Undermine. A more traditional take on the classic roguelite RPG combination, Undermine sees the player dropped into an underground dungeon tasked with defeating all the baddies and finding your way to the heart of the dungeon itself. Along the way, players will rescue prisoners, pick up gold and loot, utilize crafting, and proceed through the generated levels until meeting an unfortunate end, only to head back to start and try again. Combat is fast and fluid, but more accessible than a bullet hell game. Unlike in many RPGs, Undermine lets the player jump at will to avoid objects or dodge incoming attacks. At its core, Undermine exudes that inexplicable driving sense of just one more run each time you fall, as it doesn't ever quite come across as unfair, but rather it encourages you to learn from your mistakes and delve deeper into the dungeon. Number 7. Valheim. An explosively popular title, Valheim is a third-person survival roguelite in which fallen Vikings must prove their worth before ascending to Valhalla. Valheim can be played single-player or with friends and places a heavy reliance on gathering materials to craft weapons, shelter, and survive through a procedurally generated open-world map. It offers multiple biomes of varying difficulty and a day and night cycle to keep players on their toes. Health and stamina must be restored by eating, and the quality of food will affect how greatly these are replenished. Farming, foraging, and hunting are key mechanics to survival on the player's quest to defeat the 5 bosses of Valheim before you can ascend. It's a game of constant tension and tactical patience. You must build fortifications, farm the fields, and grow strong before rushing off to quell the beasts and take your place in Valhalla. Attempting it too early could prove to be your downfall. Number 6. Curse of the Dead Gods. One of the more punishing nominees, Curse of the Dead Gods is presented as an isometric dungeon crawler with fast-paced and intense combat. Descending into the depths of a bottomless tomb filled with evil gods, the player will find new weapons, loot, and treasure the further they delve. The further they explore, the more corrupted they become with curses born of greed. Curses will offer new random abilities such as setting enemies on fire and then exploding or turning invisible when dodging out of danger. But like any good curse, it will come with a price. Utilizing a beautiful cel-shaded art style, Curse of the Dead Gods wants players to get into the thick of the action quickly and challenge their survival skills right out of the gate. Should the player fall, which you will, you'll lose your shiny new weapons and powerful new curses, only to start over again. Everything about Curse of the Dead Gods is fast and fluid, and it certainly isn't for the faint of heart. Number 4. Loop Hero and Rogue Hero's Ruins of Tasos. These two tied for the number 4 spot on our list, yet each one offers an entirely unique experience. Loop Hero takes the roguelite formula and strangely bends it with the idle combat genre. The hero is set on a generated looping path and continuously moves forward, doing battle with whatever monsters it may encounter, and interacting with features that appear along the path. Everything to do with combat is automated, relying on your stats to win the day for you. However, successful battles, leveling up, and completing loops will give players the chance to equip better loot and unlock features like forests, mountains, towns, and more to place on the map around the loop. You'll build the world out around the loop itself, finding the best combinations to make for an effective running engine. Players can also decide to rest when reaching their camp to bank points and unlock more features. But should the hero fall, you'll lose most of your earned resources. It's a nuanced strategy of push your luck and engine building around the boiled down essence of what it means to be a roguelite. Rogue Heroes, Ruins of Tasos, takes heavy inspiration from The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and seamlessly blends it into the roguelite format. Players will select from a variety of unlockable classes to play as and venture out into the wilds and procedurally generated dungeons to defeat the bosses and save Tasos. The game's beginning town is in shambles, but loot earned from scouring the dungeons can be used to build and improve buildings with limited customization options on how the town is built. All the loot earned, however, is not banked for use until the player dies and is resurrected, creating a gameplay loop of necessary defeats to dive deeper into the game. There are a ton of hidden secrets, neat tricks to discover, puzzles to solve, and classic Legend of Zelda-inspired details ripe with nostalgia. Rogue Heroes can even be played with online and local co-op to go adventuring as a party. Number 3. Inscryption. Combining roguelite mechanics with psychological horror, Inscryption is a dark and unsettling deck-building card game in which the player competes against a nefarious entity in the darkness. Players are able to leave the table and explore the small cabin in the woods within which they find themselves trapped. There are puzzles to solve and dark corners to explore, with each completed puzzle unlocking new cards for your deck in the hopes you can finally defeat the darkness and escape. It's a beautiful and haunting game to play, both the card game and Inscryption itself, with each failure bringing you closer to finally defeating your opponent. Roguelites naturally lend themselves to dark and brooding narratives given the nature of the genre, to die over and over and try again. Inscryption leans heavily into this idea from an aesthetic and narrative standpoint, but the gameplay isn't about swinging a sword or dodging a boulder. It's about sitting face to face with the creeping creature in the darkness and trying to outwit it while looking deep into its eyes. It's a beautiful experience from top to bottom. Number 2. Deathloop. Despite being peppered with over-enthusiastic marketing, Deathloop has proven to be really fun. Centered around the story of Colt, a mercenary on Black Reef Island, he is trying to kill 8 specific targets in one night. The only problem is that Colt is stuck in a time loop. Black Reef is crawling with goons at an island-wide party, and anytime Colt is killed, the loop resets and he has to start over. Add to that the fact there is a fellow assassin on the island gunning for him at all times. Well, he has been at this for a while. Deathloop is an action FPS, giving Colt unique time-based powers and an arsenal of cool guns to get the job done. Each target has a set path of things they do throughout the loop, so patient players will learn their patterns and when it is best to strike. Bethesda Studios and Arcane make what feels like a natural progression of Dishonored, and despite the heavy barrage of marketing we were drowned in, Deathloop has turned out to be an incredibly engaging and addictive experience. Number 1. Returnal. Developer Housemarque made a modest reputation for themselves with beautiful shooters in a variety of genres. 2016's Alienation is an epic sci-fi dungeon crawler, and 2017's Matterfall is a beautiful side-scrolling platformer. With the launch of the PlayStation 5, Housemarque pushed themselves and elevated their product in a new, experimental way for their studio. The result of that hard work is Returnal. A third-person roguelite, Returnal sees protagonist Selene crash land on the alien world of Atropos, in pursuit of the White Shadow signal. Selene is trapped in a cycle. Each time she dies, she awakens mid-crash. What precedes is a haunting, creepy narrative through a dark and twisted Lovecraftian world. Each rebirth sees Atropos shift and change. Each character the player faces is a writhing terror. Housemarque took an even greater chance and made this third-person title a bullet hell, something more often reserved for top-down shooters, but pulled it off in a satisfying and challenging way. At no point in Returnal do you feel as if the game has cheated you. Every death is a learning experience, and more importantly, one that is actually easy to learn. No one quite expected Returnal to be as good as it is, and the journey of both Housemarque and the game to get here will be remembered for years to come. It's a game that doesn't just feature roguelite mechanics, it has built its entire narrative around the necessity of death, and has made the genre more accessible and inviting to those who are hesitant to try it. Returnal is COGconnected's roguelite of the year, and we can't wait to see what the future holds for Housemarque and Selene.